Hello, lovely ones, and welcome to another Galactic Mayan Astrology report. This is a report for Saturday, the 3rd of August, 2024. So we're moving into the third wave spell of our 9-month, 260-day human evolution spin. But we're also in the first few weeks of the new galactic year. So we have this 9-month cycle, which is our human gestation cycle. And then we have this 13-month cycle, which is the year cycle. It's how we move around the sun as a planetary body. So on the 26th of July, we entered this new year, held within the White Wizard Wavespell, and we're in the 13 years of the White Wizard. So I would assume that you most probably went through a few initiations in the past few weeks. And the wave spell that we're moving into is going to be a beautiful balm for that. So on Saturday, we move into the blue hand wave spell. And the blue hand energy is this beautiful, nurturing, emotional, softening sign. And for me, I find it all of those positive things because I'm a deeply emotional feeling person. But the challenge of this sign can be if people are struggling to feel their emotions, there may be a little bit of like inner conflict within that because it's like, I want to keep that at bay. Whereas for me, I'm drowning in it all the fucking time anyway. So it's like, oh, the space for me to have these incredible emotional waves because every other fuck is finally feeling how intense I usually feel things too. So yeah, the blue hand is this really, well, it's a blue sign. The blue signs are all about transformation. I didn't realize I got my jam top on and it's blue. Um, so yeah, there's like the blue is like transformer, and the blue hand is emotion. So it's this like transformation of human emotion, and yeah, and I feel we've kind of with the world as it is, where it's kind of landed of late there is a difficulty in feeling, and we've kind of been conditioned to exist in our minds, and there's a lot of calcification within the human vessel, and what that then creates is a lot of challenge, because when we actually allow ourselves to feel and go through the emotional gateway, then the energy, again this blue, is transformed, then the energy can move, then the energy is freed. Whereas when we're not descending into the emotional realms, when we're not allowing ourselves, and again, it's not a conscious thing. Nobody consciously decides that they're not going to cry. Nobody consciously decides that they're going to, go into thinking as opposed to feeling. Um, but when that feeling process isn't able to complete, it's happening at a deeper level anyway, but it's just that it can't move, it can't get out. So then all of that energy gets trapped. And when our energy is trapped, when our life force is trapped, it's more difficult for us to flow through reality. So the blue hand invites us to begin to soften into feeling, soften into tenderness. It's a very tender energy, his blue hand. And if we think about what the hand represents, there's this like giving and receiving energy, there's this touch, there's this kind of reaching out. And I feel a bit emotionally battered right now, because I've kind of been journeying my own personal waves, but then I'm also running this project for young people, and we've got a lot of really vulnerable young people in the space, and I'm holding so many young people that have just got, they just don't have that loving home life. And I know that this is, the reason that I kind of do the work that I do, but just on an emotional level, it's like, ooh, how do we, when we do open ourselves, it's almost like, how do we then cope in the world? Because so much of what has been created has come from the non-feeling. It's like we can't we can't feel when we're in those situations. We've got to block it out in order to survive. But then once you are feeling, it's like, fuck, like how do we cope with what's happening on the planet? And I think a lot of the time, and this is what I kind of feel within like the truth movement, there's the kind of default into like the mind and figuring it out and then like decoding it and like pulling it apart. And but actually when we just let ourselves feel it, it's like the fear of feeling, it's like you're gonna just fall into oblivion. And this is the thing with grief, and I think blue hand and grief go hand in hand. Because yeah, with grief, it's you can't analyze grief, you can't process grief through the mind, you can't contain grief, you can't, it will eventually explode, and then it has to be cathartic. And it's really difficult in the world as it is, because we've kind of been taught to like manage everything, and emotions, we can't manage them. They're either on or they're off. And yeah, we can learn to regulate, and that's a really big part of the learning process once the feelings are on. But there is this, like, it's a wild, untamable aspect of the human experience. And yeah, from the heights of feeling and emotion too, but also to the depths. So with the blue hand, it is this invitation for us to soften, and find the things that support us to remain soft. Like, how can we, this is the query of blue hand, how can we remain soft in such a rigid, painful world? How can we expand to hold, not in a graspy way, but hold our center, ourselves within the depths of emotion? The other piece of blue hand is that there's this, like, it's associated with the archetype and the animal of the deer. And the deer, being this very beautiful, gentle, creative energy, but like sky, So there's also within that this kind of doorway to, we need to create for ourselves ultimate safety so that we can begin to cathart, because we're not just catharting for ourselves, we're catharting for the planet. So what is it that you need? What is it that I need to be able to feel safe enough to allow the emotion to move through? And what often happens for me with the wave spells is that I kind of it starts a bit early for me. I think because, it's been 10 years that I've been working with the modality and sharing it. And I think there's just almost a relationship that I've got, because time's bendy anyway, that allows me to kind of start the process first, so that when I'm showing up to the Wavespell video and the report, I'm kind of speaking through what's moving already. And like, I am a very open channel. So I guess, yeah, to kind of use this kind of experience that I'm having within the work that I do with young people. I think there's a lot of people that work in the role that I'm in, I guess, that, they've got that like super masculine, like they can hold it because it doesn't necessarily penetrate, and it's a superpower. They can just be like, I know your backstory, but I'm here, I'm hot. There's that like douche. But when you don't have that, what we are being invited to do is let the energy move through us, let the grief, let the emotion move through us. But how do we create the space for that? And this is a big part of like my intention for the year, but also a recognition within this sign. We need to create space. And I think I've said this quite a few times on the Wavespell videos, because it links into time. It's like we need to create space for unstructured time. We need to make sure that we preserve and protect, like our life fucking depends on it, because it does, these moments where we're able to just rest And the rest then can allow the grief to move. The rest then can allow the integration to happen. Because when we structure everything, which is what we've been taught to do, and like what childhood for a lot of people has now become, you know, it's like you go to school, then you go to your clubs, then you come home to your routines, and it's like boop, 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 boop. Where is the space, you know? Because in that organic space, then we're responding to the moment, we're in the present. When we don't have the space, we're not in the present. So it's not even just like, oh, it's really nice to be in the present. It's also this like, we fucking need to be to allow the energy to move. The other piece of Blue Hand is like relational, you know? So, like, how do we support one another to feel, you know? And I think sometimes the notion of like support, emotional support is so needed at this time on the planet. You know, yes, practical support, but also just that space to be able to share and unravel and unpack. But sometimes there's a lot of blocks to doing that. You know, there's a lot of, oh, I'm too much. Oh. And this is another part of, you know, what we are potentially going to journey within this wave spell. It's like, okay, so our feelings are switched on. We're allowing ourselves to be in the depths, but then to allow somebody to see us in the depths, to even ask for help in the depths is like, wow, that is a whole other level, you know, because it touches so many of these wonky narratives. So within this wave spell, it's about feeling and knowing that the feeling is the healing, and all we need to do is the feeling. Create the space for the feeling, create the moments, create the windows where you can just drop in and feel it. And, you know, sometimes when we create those moments in exhaustion, it might be that we just need to have a little bit of time to dissociate, a little bit of time to just like chewing gum for the brain it, and like watch something shit, or, you know, do something that's like, yeah, you know, restful, let your brain do its thing. But then also it's like create the space for the practice that's going to support you, for the journaling, for the movement, for the, you know, whatever the thing is that supports you to be in presence with yourself. Because when you're in presence with yourself, as opposed to doing a practice where you're thinking the next step is this, or this is what I do in that, and da, 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 it's like creating the space for the practice that is unstructured, for the somatic, for the, you know, the intuitive, for the unstructured. The window, create the window that allows you to let your emotion flow, to let your process move, and just honor that deep human need for space. And go gently, you know, go gently and know that in the softness, that's where we need to be as humans. The new human is soft, soft in a way that's boundaried, soft in a way that's assertive, but soft in a way that there's like an ability to like descend into the feeling. We can allow it in, and then we can transmute it, and then we can grow, as opposed to we don't allow it in or we don't allow it out. So just notice, like, are there moments where I'm not letting it in? Are there moments where I'm not letting it out? And why? What is that? Like, what is that block? What is the fear of removing that block? And then how can I begin to soften that block? How can I give my system permission to release or fully receive? And then from there, what do I need to feel safe to emote? What do I need to create space for myself to go through my emotional process and do the emotional evolution journey? Because that's what this is. You know, evolution now, yeah, we talk about it as like conscious evolution. So we're choosing to do it, but really it's the emotional evolution, you know, it's the evolution through feeling. It's the feminine evolution moment. And I don't mean women and men, I mean the feminine energetic. It's hearty, it's soft, and you're safe, and we're safe together. And I send you so much love. Bye.